Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Drak Reviews, where today we're going to be taking on a little game that created a lot of hype and a lot of buzz in E3 2017. I remember a lot of people talking about it, so much so that it became a main talking point amongst the gaming news sites, and even at E3 2018, when its company got brought in to the Microsoft umbrella as we tackle We Happy Few by Compulsion Games. And of course, let's go ahead and start things off with the story. The story centers around Arthur Hastings, a man who is living a very average life, at least in this world, in the world of We Happy Few, until his job is interrupted by being reminded of his brother Percival, or Percy. Percy's the way that he'll actually go about it. Get it? Arthur, Percival. As soon as he has that reminder, he's immediately wanting to get out of the norm. And one of the norms is that you take joy, a medication that everybody is on that makes everybody happy-go-lucky and everything just smiles and butterflies and rainbows. The only downside is that when he stops taking it, he is immediately labeled a downer. And at that point, he is considered a danger to society and is hunted down and immediately thrown out of regular everyday society and into the post-apocalyptic world of We Happy Few. The other thing that I should also probably point out is the story heavily hints towards either being post-World War I or post-World War II. The only reason I say that is you kind of have hints more towards World War I, but then I had a few memories and things like that that actually kind of hinted that it might have been in the 1940s. So I'm not sure, but it's post one of those world wars. And obviously, things went to hell in a handbasket, so much so that it looks like either the Kaiser Germans won or the Nazis won, and that's why this high society exists and why everybody has to take joy. Overall, I have to say the story that I was actually able to get from it, because the overall journey is that Arthur goes to try and find his brother Percy, whether he be alive or dead, he just wants to find him. I actually found a lot of potential in what the story was trying to tell, especially when you get into the post-apocalyptic world. And that's when you start to kind of realize the reality of the world. You eventually have to go back into the prim and proper society, but as soon as you do, it's very clear that, like, this is a narrative. This is how they want the society to view things. And so at that point, it's not really that you're going to get any real stories, maybe a few real characters here and there, but it's obviously that everything is fine and everything is hunky-dory. And really, a lot of the storytelling, in my opinion, goes when you hit the post-apocalyptic world, when you realize, like, all of your friends or all of your acquaintances are at least a little bit crazy, or they have these problems that only you can help solve for them. So I will admit, I did take a little bit of points off for story, but not too much, as I really do think that there's a ton of potential here. My only gripe with the story is that the story seems to move a little too fast. And at that point, we're not really able to flesh out Arthur as a character, Percy as a character, anything like that. If anything, if I was in charge of the story, I'd slow it down. Given how much gameplay that I actually put, I would have slowed it down, and I probably would have had an entire game based in post-apocalyptic world before you had to go back into the prim and proper society, which would be like the climax at the end of the game. And in We Happy Few's case, it's very quickly that you're sent back into the prim and proper society, and you have to kind of mock that, or not mock, but you have to emulate that society so that you don't get caught, so you don't get killed, kind of thing. So I will admit, I did take a few points off, but only because, as a personal gripe, this story should go a lot slower than it does. There are points where it feels like, yes, it's going the proper speed, and then there are points where it's like you're in the fastest car you can possibly think of, and you're going 100 miles an hour. Moving on into visuals. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and warn people in advance. Visually and gameplay-wise, you're going to hear a lot of the same complaints. Quite simply, I'm just going to point this out. I know why this game got delayed, and frankly, it should have gotten delayed a little bit longer to help solidify some of the development issues that came out with the final game. And I actually even looked around to see if other people were having these problems, and I wasn't the only one. So visually, it does look good. I'm not saying that it doesn't. Both the aesthetic of the post-apocalyptic world and the prim and proper society, which is what I'm calling it, all work. Okay, they all provide the aesthetic that they need to. At least, you know, like with the post-apocalyptic world, it looks dank and dark and hopeless, but at least it's real, kind of thing. It's a weird thing to actually point out to you guys, but at least it's real. At least it's what the world actually is. And then when you get into the prim and proper society, it's very fake, and it feels very fake. It's actually kind of haunting how many people have accepted this joy lifestyle, and it almost puts you at edge when you're ever in those areas, which you should be. That's the way it's supposed to work, and I get what Compulsion was trying to do here. However, there are a lot of elements that take you out of the immersion of what this world is supposed to be provided. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it's glitches and bugs aplenty. There are many times where, just kind of mixed into the gameplay here, where you will see people walking in midair for no reason. There was actually a point, and I wished I'd been able to capture it, but for some reason my footage got corrupted for that particular block, where I actually like triggered a bunch of the prim and proper society to come out and kill me, and I actually had people clipping out of buildings to come and kill me. And I'm just like sitting there going, dude, that is absolutely insane. At least have them open a door or something. So you had the clipping, you have the bug, you have the people walking in midair. You actually had missions bug, which was really, really, really frustrating after a while. Like, I literally had a mission where I was supposed to just collect a little piece of memorabilia to hand over to a friend, and all of a sudden, because I decided to kill the guard first, or I believe that's how the bug worked, either kill the guard first or I picked something else up in that room first, it didn't allow me to pick up the dang item. Because I believe it was a pocket watch or something like that. You couldn't pick it up, so I actually had to do the mission over again, and in a lot of these missions, guys, there is no checkpoints to it. So at that point, you are basically making your way through the entire mission all over again, only to have it bug again. I actually had to do this mission twice, and that was already very, 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 very frustrating. But I'm giving you this kind of bug aesthetic because Compulsion needed to work a lot more on this, and I can see why the game got delayed, but it didn't really do much. This game should have probably come out next year. It really should have gotten a lot more of the development process and a lot of QA into it. I have been hearing that they're getting ready to pump out a bunch of patches, but too little, too late. This is Bethesda treatment as far as I'm concerned. So I will admit, I did take some points off of visuals and also on the gameplay because of the glitches and all of the problems that I did encounter while playing this game, especially when it came to the missions. A lot of missions were buggy. Thankfully, some of them bugged in my favor, but there were a few that didn't, and it got really, really frustrating. The other thing that I also want to add on gameplay is that this game encourages a lot of stealth. Or at least if you don't want to hurt people, like Arthur's character, the way that he works is like he doesn't want to get into fights. He wants to be able to get to Percy, but he doesn't want to have to hurt anybody to get there. So it encourages you to stealth a little bit, and the game is not built for stealth. Okay, especially when you get into like the prim and proper society. Here's the way, like, for all the people who are thinking I'm complaining out of order. In a Metal Gear game, yes, when you attract a certain amount of attention, you are going to get the entire area's worth of attention, as long as they're within range. In this case, especially in the prim and proper society, if you don't adhere to every single stinking rule that society allows, you will have an entire block's worth of enemies, which in turn creates frame rate problems, and also in turn creates the clipping issues and the bugs to intensify as your console tries to put all of that on screen. And so at that point, that creates a lot of issues, especially when it comes to immersion. Even the prim and proper society, this is why I'm also saying that it needed its own game, as prim and proper society needed its own length of time to be able to say, okay, this is what you have to do to be able to survive in it. You have to take your joy. You have to be able to walk around properly. If you run too fast, you're going to get noticed. If you don't greet the old woman this amount of times, then you're going to get caught. And that was already mixing that in with the post-apocalyptic society, it didn't really mesh well. And in some cases, especially in my case, where you kind of mixed the rules together, you accidentally took joy out in the middle of the post-apocalyptic world, which actually kind of gets you in trouble out there too. or you would accidentally run when, you're used to running in the post-apocalyptic world, but you're not supposed to in prim and proper society. That's why I'm saying in a lot of cases, in coupling with the story, these should be separate games altogether. These should have been like a chapter in a saga, and unfortunately, because of where Compulsion was, they just decided to do it all together. So yeah, I did take points off for visuals and for gameplay. There you go. Moving on into audio. This is going to blow a lot of people's minds, but I didn't really have any problems with audio. The music was haunting. The music was what it needed to be to establish either the post-apocalyptic world or the prim and proper society world. It really did reflect all of that. I especially loved the tonal and music shift when you would take joy. And then at that point, everything became all high and peppy and all, this is just a zippity-doo-dah day kind of thing. And I like that they had tonal shifts for stuff like that. And then the second that you drop off joy, there's a music and tonal shift. You're immediately paranoid. Everything is really scary and dark for you, especially when people in the prim and proper society notice you're off joy. It gets even scarier than that. So the audio was really well done here. I especially love the intro theme that you get played every time you open up the game. That was really haunting and really already at the beginning of the game, it puts you on edge. It puts you into a state of discomfort walking into it. The voice acting, I'm going to say, in some cases was good and in some cases was bad. I'm not saying bad as in like, oh my gosh, they are so monotone and plank of wood. Not really, but there are definitely points where I believe a bad line read was put in and they could have done better with it. There's a lot of awesome moments that got a really, really great line read and you didn't necessarily need that great line read. A lot of the character development is kind of up and down as far as roller coasters, and in some cases where the character's outright bonkers, it makes sense for that. But in the case of Arthur, he can literally go to timid and weak, and then all of a sudden 0 to 60, angry, pissed off, and raging. And so at that point, it got a little weird in the cutscenes to be able to say, okay, what happened that made this character spark so much rage in you, and never really properly explained. But overall, I mean, I can't necessarily say that anybody gave a bad performance here. I just think in some cases with the directors and the writing, they just picked the wrong line reads, and they should have just looked at those again and said, okay, maybe we should put this one in, and it's a little bit more streamlined, so at that point, it's going to help the story move along, but it's not going to be so uppity, or it's going to be so down-itty, so to speak. But overall, I really didn't take any points off for audio. I think overall, the music helped with the tonal shifts in the game, as well as being able to set the atmosphere. And the voice acting also helps to do that in some weird ways too. Moving on into replay value and presentation. So replay value, there's definitely a lot there. It's a very open world. So at that point, the way that I can explain it to you guys is it's open world and it's Bioshocky. For lack of a better term. You can go through the houses and be able to collect a bunch of stuff. You can craft to your heart's content. You can even upgrade your workbenches and everything like that to be able to craft even more stuff. So there's a lot of things to be able to do after you complete the main plot. There's a bunch of side quests that you'll be able to take on. I've even heard that there's going to be a patch coming soon with a new Game Plus mode. So at that point, you can go through the story again if you want to. But I haven't been able to confirm that, so don't jump down my throat, guys. But it would be interesting to add a new Game Plus into this game. It would really help. So replay value, I can't necessarily take any points off of it because it is there. Presentation, however, like I said before, immersion is really hurt when you have bad gameplay elements integrated into that. And so at that point where the audio was able to set the tone and be able to have the shifts happen properly, the second that you had a dude walking in midair or people cropping out of buildings, it just makes you want to laugh at it, which is immediately taking you out of the on-edge atmosphere that We Happy Few is trying to convey. So I will admit I did take some points off for that, and this is actually where I have no problem, unfortunately, giving We Happy Few a 6 out of 10. The glitches, the bugs, the cropping, all of the crap that shouldn't be in a game when it's supposed to be coming out and it's already a year and a half later, it just can't be forgiven at that given moment. So I think this was a solid D effort. It could have been a lot better. Like I said, you had the ability to be able to tell a story over maybe 2 or 3 games, and Compulsion decided to do all of it at once, and I think that was ultimately a bad idea in this case. It would have been better to be, like I said, to be able to put a story solely in the post-apocalyptic world, and then have kind of the climax of that going back into prim and proper society, and then having a second game start off in that society, and basically making your way out of it again to go and try and find Percy. And I think there would have been enough story to be able to do that. Unfortunately, Compulsion was just looking to get this game out. So yeah, 6 out of 10. It's a solid D. But is it worth it? We Happy Few is available on PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, and you can currently get it at a price of $49.99. That's as of current day pricing. I actually got it at $59.99 when I purchased it. Is it worth it at either of those prices? No, I actually honestly have to say no, it's not. Even for the story that you're going to get, and if you're a fan of stories like this, it still kind of isn't worth it, especially given the bugs. I would say go and get it used, go and get it on sale, maybe $5 or $10 worth, and at $39.99, I think it would be a lot more worthwhile as a holiday purchase or something like that for you guys. But I would not get it at full price, especially given the bugs and the glitches that I had to deal with while playing this game. And that's going to go ahead and do it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for your continued love, support, and patience for the channel as well as its content. I know that it takes a while for this content to get out there, and I'm working very hard to be able to fix that. But in the meantime, I will see you guys next time for the next review.